back to another week of the DP World Tour Picks and Bets. Skylar, Hoke here, Tom Jacobs. How are we doing?
Good. Yeah, I've recovered from what was basically an emotionless betting week in Singapore. It didn't get started very quickly, did it? It was stop-start, and then it was one of weird times. Like I thought it was going to be one of those ones that like I woke up and it was still going on, and actually it was like I woke up and it was over. So it was pretty hard to follow. And then like Ategi and Levy were there, and then they weren't, and all of a sudden it just became meaningless to me. But hopefully that changes this week. I think we've got a golf course that isn't going to be so. I think there was like a few like tripping up holes on purpose last week that didn't really need to be like it was, and I think this week we'll see a bit more of a free flowing event, and one's probably enjoy a bit more.
Yeah, I was disappointed in the teeth of the course, right? We said the Beast of Asia, the hardest course that was out there. And, right, what did Aki get to? He was -9 on the last day.
Yeah.
You know, thought even par would be a good score. And unfortunately, the guys got way lower than that. Lagergren had gotten the mix after day one. But, yeah, I was rooting for Ding, the amateur, Wendy
Yes.
Ding.
Well, because you'd spoken about him, right? Like you'd said that he was one of the ones that you were considering, didn't go there.
He was. Well, that wasn't even. There was like 3 or 4 of them. He had been in the event before, and he. I mean, that's 2 out of the last 4 events that we've seen an amateur at the halfway leader, right? That's pretty cool.
And I'm pretty sure so this course, moving up, sort of segue into this event, like this course was used for the Asian Pacific Amateur, and I'm pretty sure he played well here. The last time he was here in 2022.
Yeah, I thought I was hoping he'd be back in the field because he definitely played decent. Rachanan, Chananawanawat. Whoa, that came out really fast. But he was on TK, was on our card last week, and did not play very well. But he was 2nd or 3rd, I think, at the halfway point at the Asia Pacific Am Games. So that's basically of international amateur events, probably the top one.
Does that gets you into the Masters, right?
Yes. So Harrison Crow won this past year. I mean, I guess I would say it's a top 5 amateur event that exists out there. So yeah, you only get the best of the best. And I thought it was kind of interesting too when we, I guess, transfer into the course this week. So Armada Springs, it was played in 2012 at the Asia Pacific Amateur 2. CT Pan was up there. Cameron Smith was up there. Some names. What the last time we'd seen this course, it was played at the Thailand Classic, right, where Jamie Donaldson was the winner. There, I think Bubba used to tee it up in this event. They used to pull in some bigger names, but it doesn't. To your point, it seems like a classical course that we're probably going to get lower scores at. Doesn't seem anything too overbearing from a statistical standpoint. Anything that you're kind of targeting exactly?
No, so 2011 through to 2015, to your point, was the Thailand Golf Championship, and it was Lee Westwood, Charles Schwartzel, Sergio Garcia, Lee Westwood, Jamie Donaldson. Lee Westwood 2 wins and a runner-up finish in that time. And you just look, and it was one of those classic ones that these guys. This is where the people used to go to get paid, right? Like back in the day, they used to go and take these things, and Lee Westwood won by 7 strokes in the first time. Charles Schwartzel won by 11 strokes the second time from a Thailand player whose name I can't pronounce, and Bubba Watson. But it was weird. So they went 22 under, 25 under, 22 under, 8 under, 21 under. So there was one year in 2014 where there must have been like horrendous weather. I don't really remember it. But Westwood beat Marcus Frazier and Martin Keimer by 1. If you look at that, Jason on the Lost Words podcast has kind of said it's a little bit linksy. You've got Donaldson, Westwood, Garcia, Schwartzel, and Westwood again as the winners. Stenson as a runner-up. He's obviously won an Open Championship. I don't know if it's that or just they were top quality players in the field, but I would just say from, speaking to Brad, he was saying that there's fairly generous fairways. There's a few water hazards here and there, but ultimately they're going to rely on wind and weather to any sort of defense this week.
Yeah, I think we've seen ourselves, and I'm going to try my best, just falling into distance matters. And not that I think the off the tee players who can excel every week are the players who are going to put yourselves, like the best players in the world are the best off the tee players. Like, I'm not going to try to pigeonhole as much, maybe certain statistics. I might highlight when guys fall into that on some recent form or what I'm kind of looking for. But the way these fields are, right? I don't want to say it still is odd for me, even with the names that are our leaders, right, at the top of odds boards, to really wrap your head around and say, like, strong field, or this is like, when you're getting Jordan Smith and Bob and Adrian and Rosner and even Mansell, up here in shorter numbers, like, I just still think things end up being so high variance when these are the guys that are the top players. And like, you're seeing that every week on the Corn Ferry Tour. You're seeing that every week on the Challenge Tour, when potentially these skill gaps or talent levels, are where they are. It just opens things up even more. And I'm going to make these guys still prove it to me before I begin betting kind of that short week in and week out. Now, I know you like one of the guys out there that's keeping up with the form, and you can continue to take those risks. Because I just, long story short, I'm not that scared every week when I go to look at the top of the board like you would have been in Phoenix, and that proved it to be last week.
And like the main difference is that when we talk about Rory and Rahm coming over to DP World Tour, we talk about Fleetwood and Hatton, Lowry, etc. on their, although it's not really panned out this year, they're 10 to 1, 12 to 1, 14 to 1 favourites against one another, whereas these are 20 to 1 and bigger, right? And all of a sudden it's not a favourite. They are the best talent-wise, but even the sports books are basically saying we're not scared of you winning type thing. Like if Nicolai Højgaard was what people think Nicolai Højgaard is, then he should be like a 10 to 1 favourite. But he's 20 to 1 because he's volatile, right? And then that's just what you're getting in these events. So yeah, to your point, not scared of anybody. With that said, I have taken one from the top. Probably won't be a surprise to people who have been listening recently, but I'm going with Thorbjørn Olesen again. I just don't want to get away from him. It's not a case of following off a cliff and just worrying that you're going to miss the win. Like I can jump off any time. I still just think he's being overlooked a little bit. Like, he's 18 to 1 to make the European Ryder Cup team. He's 22 to 1 to win this week. I just thought is he not as good as Jordan Smith, Robert McIntyre, and Nicolai Højgaard? Like, he's got 6 wins. You just mentioned I still want people to prove it. He's proven it. He's finished 6th in the Masters on his debut. He's got 2 top 9 finishes in an Open Championship. He's contended in a WGC, I think. He's got all these high quality wins. 45th, 30th, 20th, 16th, and 4th is Thorbjørn Olesen's current run of form. It's just going to happen. I think he's just going to win. Like, every week there's been a missing component. And eventually, I think now he wasn't in the field last week. He comes to the weaker field here. I just think he wins. So at 22 to 1 on DraftKings Sportsbook, I think Thorbjørn Olesen is the way to go.
Yeah, I think it's somebody I saw a tweet today from Tim Frank that was kind of interesting. It was about Wyndham Clark's odds, for example. It said because Baroff, our friend, tweeted that, well, they got Wyndham at unbettable numbers now, right? And Tim was like, winning people, what I've seen in my years of betting golf is winning people stay on, like when the number keeps getting shorter because they have the belief in them, basically. And this is when we hop off and they still keep playing well, right? You can't just always be scared of the shorter number if you have that belief.
And I think look, what was probably the first number I took on Olesen this year? Like 70, maybe. But that was when it was in Abu Dhabi and Dubai and things like that.
Yeah.
It's gone down to 20, right? But that's relative to the field. Really, his price hasn't reacted that differently to his form. And I think that you can't discount 2020 and 2021 for COVID years completely, but you've had that. He's had the off the course issues as well. Now he's just playing like he was before. I think Olesen, at his best, is definitely the most accomplished player in this field. So if you're viewing him that way, I say most accomplished, other than the veterans that are obviously still in the field, but like of the top quality players currently, he's the most accomplished and the most likely to win, I think.
Yep, 100%. I like it. And I had a struggle here with kind of my first selection. I think I could have honestly, every single golfer that is 35 to 1, I think you can make an argument for this week.
Yeah,
I
100%.
wanted, like, I was very interested in going back to Valimaki after, it just feels it's inevitable at this point. He's going to get over the line one of these Sundays. He's played well multiple times, just got beaten out. So I think he was there. I thought I would be going into Ashen Wu. People make good arguments for Affy Barnrat. And I think as you keep going down here, who's the next one? Takumi Kanaya just won a big event, a pretty decent event on the Asian tour, right? All of these guys here at 35 to 1. But I'm not one often, like I said, still to be piling up on the lower odds right now. I'm going to land on Marcus Helikilda. Man, that felt good to nail his name, Tom.
That was good.
So Helikilda, he's just somebody who, he was the Challenge Tour Player of the Year. We talk about, he had 3 wins on that, and he came into some pretty decent upside success, I would say, in his first year, right? I think it was 5 top 15s or 6 top 17s if you include last week, including back-to-back top 13 finishes on the PGA Tour when he popped over there, which was very impressive. And he's kind of just shown these mini flashes over the last few weeks. I mean, 17th was with closing rounds of last week, 66, 68, 69. So he starts at 97th after the first round. He was one of the better 54-hole finishes, only had 2 bogeys in his final 3 rounds. Very high in greens and regulation. 13th the week before, 66, 66 in 2 of those rounds, had a 75 in round 3 to blow it up. I like being able to cherry pick at least some rounds here that pop for guys, and knowing his upside is kind of sky high. And again, I don't want to take a specific angle, but if I do think he's one of the better drivers of the golf ball when he's hitting it well. So I'm excited to kind of go into that with 35s for him.
Yeah, look, he was 7th in ball striking last week. So the strokes gain data, I'm not entirely sure was right last week. But if you look
you don't believe that Anthony Quayle gained 22 strokes gained approach in 4 rounds?
So I was very questionable when I saw that. And then I looked at his finish and thought, no, that's definitely not right.
But does it mean that if he messed up, doesn't mean the other guys could be wrong? The other guys could be spot on.
Yeah, like it's just tough. But the quantifiable ones are he was 20th in driving distance, he was 37th in driving accuracy, and he was 3rd in greens regulation. Like the greens regulation can't be wrong. They've either hit the green or they haven't, right? So Helikilda, I think, in that respect, and I think he's the thing I liked about Helikilda, because I think there's a couple of people on him. Like when you look, and he was 34th in Abu Dhabi, he was 51st in Dubai Desert Classic. You would say, okay, he's not quite ready to contend in those bigger events and those stronger fields just now. Let's see what he does the next 2 weeks, and he finishes 13th and 17th. Like that's a huge improvement, and what you'd expect him to do. So that kind of suggests to me that when the field level is right, the course setup is probably better this week than it was last week. I think we're looking at kind of a top 10 finish for Helikilda, and then it's a case of does he have the winning upside? And we don't know yet because he hasn't done it on the DP World Tour, but there's no reason to suspect that he won't.
Yeah, 100%. So I think we skip down to you now for the next selection.
Yeah, so Shubhankar Sharma, I got very excited about him this morning. Was basically my favourite bet. So mainly because I wanted to bet him last week and he wasn't in the field. So he's come here. He's 2nd at Nedbank behind Tommy Fleetwood, 7th at the Abu Dhabi Championship, 12th at the Saudi International. Now, that's 2 of the better DP World Tour fields of recent months. That Saudi International field was basically a PGA Tour event. He's got a win and a 9th in Malaysia, so that's close enough, right? His Thailand form isn't great itself, but I just think that the way he's playing in the stronger fields and what we know of Shubhankar Sharma in terms of upside, we know he can play well in WGCs, etc. He's not. I don't feel quite as strongly about him as I did about someone like Ollison, who I think is well overlooked, who is way better than he's being given credit for. But I think he has got a lot of upside at the. I mean, what number can you get over there? The best number is 66 to 1. So Shubhankar Sharma 60 to 1 on DraftKings Sportsbook, absolutely fine, I think.
And he's bound at the Hero Indian Open probably to see some lower odds too, where you would expect success there that has happened in the past. I actually didn't realize that event was already next week. I had brought it up last week. Also, I think I might be one of the first people to ever bet a golfer who, instead of teeing it up on Thursday, got surgery the first day. Beef had surgery on Thursday last week.
That blew my mind. He literally put, like, because I saw that you'd said that he'd withdrawn. And then I saw on Instagram, and he was like, oh, I finally got the answer I needed. I was like, how did you go from you were in the field right up until Wednesday night to I'm having surgery today? Like, that blows my mind. Like, how have you not found that answer within the last month or so? Were you waiting for a call? What do you think it is? So I guess he's had this wrist surgery now. And best of luck to him. Like, I really like him. I just think there's been a lot of like divergences in his life and career. And I think he just needs to get back to basics and just be the Andrew Johnston that came on the scene. And I think that'd be great for his golf career. If he wants to have a all-encompassing career, like he's got his own podcast and things like that, great. Like, I think you need stuff off the course, but I think the off the course creeps in. Like, how has he not had this surgery already? Like, what's been going on? He's just had an off season. What are you doing?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I found it quite hilarious that hit the nail on the head there. But so I end up leaning in the same odds range as he was last week for two selections here for me. One, I'll start with, he was, we're recording a little bit later on Monday. He was triple digits when it first came out. One of our friends, Ben, Coley has tipped him up. And it's been weird, man. It has been odd that Dan Bradbury still sits in this range. I guess we didn't really fully hit on Strydom's win yesterday, right? Like, Strydom came from almost nowhere, right? A career of habitual runner-ups, not being able to close on Sunday, really nothing, to 2 wins already in the DP World Tour season. And what odds did Aki go off of last week? Triple digits easily, right? Yeah, he was 100 to 1 going into Sunday. And so just Bradbury ends up in this no man's land of odds, right? Like, he won when you don't know anything about him, and he has yet to miss a cut. Literally he hasn't missed a cut, which is impressive. Most people, like, when they get these wins, right, they're like, I'm really very concerned about Takumi Kanaya this week. Like, it's a huge win. How are you going to react the next week? And like, Bradbury has just delivered it. And not to say it has been like all that successful. I think his best finish was 28th post that. But we've seen that 28th was second with Rory McIlroy going into the final round of a Rolex.
And that's the thing.
Right?
If he's not in the tournament with Rory McIlroy, he's not paired with him. I know you can't say, like, if Rory McIlroy wasn't there, he'd have won. But things are a lot different if you're not paired with Rory McIlroy, who's laser focused, the best player in the field by a wild stretch, best player in the world at the time, and he's got Patrick Reed gunning after him, which is another whole different story. And you're just kind of stuck in the middle of this. You're watching Reed do what he's doing ahead. Rory McIlroy is pushing it. It's very easy to get caught up, and the fact that he's got that inexperience of only really being on the tour this year, winning his first event is wild. But yeah, like you say, I mean, yes, okay, he's only finished 42nd and 34th the last 2 weeks, but even in Raz, when he was 42nd, he was 23rd going into the final round, fell away. Last week he started slowly, but like you said about Helikilda, then 68, 68, 70. He feels a little bit like it's not quite as dramatic, because I think people like him to bet at the moment. But like Ewan Ferguson has never really moved price after winning twice and should have won 3 times last year. And it feels a little bit the same for Bradbury. He's not quite going down to the levels that they're not scared to take him on, which is strange. It's almost like I don't believe he can carry on.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm very curious on what like Aki ends up being priced at the next time out, right? Because if Bradbury wins again, I have a hard time thinking he shouldn't be among the Valamakis and the Woos and the Bjorks who aren't coming through. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Bjork,
that is,
that was weird. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's still this feeling out process that I'm happy to chance. I'll go. Actually, DraftKings has thrown triple digits on the next selection for me. We'll let you go with your next pick.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a fear of missing out bet with Gavin Green. And so the best price is 70 to 1. He's 55 to 1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. But for me, like, Gavin Green is someone, I basically said to you, I think at the tail end of last year, that I will probably bet Gavin Green every week until he wins, or he doesn't win and I finally give up. And I haven't bet him at all this year. And it's been really surprising. And the performances since I didn't bet him the first time have suggested I shouldn't be betting him either. And there wasn't anything last week massively. other than the fact he only just missed the cut. And you just consider this tournament and the course, if we are right, and if we're to believe what was being said, it's the wide open fairways, it's driver everywhere. That's going to suit Gavin Green. It's probably the last best chance he's going to get to play in this field strength in the area of the world that he loves. So I think it's a little bit not last chance saloon for Gavin Green, because I think he can do anything, but this is probably his last best chance to really compete for a win. So at 70-1, I like Gavin Green.
Yes. Yep. I think that stretch of golf last year, man.
So
I can't
good.
believe he didn't capitalize for us when he missed.
I wonder if that's like he sits there and goes like, I've missed out, and that's really crept in. Because before he was so volatile, like he had endless amounts of talent but never really capitalized. Whereas last year he was like playing so good, and just couldn't get over the line. And that's when your mindset changes, like a Scheffler and a Finau who, to put it into PJ terms, like really were struggling to get that kind of first win. Then all of a sudden they go on and really kick on. And I don't necessarily think Green's going to win one and go and win five, but it just feels like he is kind of his worst enemy at the moment. I just think maybe a little bit of a freeing up this time and realizing, okay, this is a really good opportunity for me, might just help him out. It's definitely a field play rather than anything statistical for Gavin Green.
Yep. I'd be remiss again. 50-1 and higher. I'm going to bet Guido Migliozzi. We have him at 60s this week. I'm scrolling here as we're talking, and Matt Cooper has him as his cover piece this week. So again, we're on Guido. We keep the faith when we get a big number, right? When he's in form and he pops lower, that's okay. When you have to make a question it right here, let's keep going back. But that's not the one that I wanted to discuss on. The one that I really want to dig into that I think might be my favorite pick of the week, Tom, is Marcel Seen. So you get him at his 500th career start this past week. And he was somebody that when the tournament locked and I saw Marcel Seen's ownership on DraftKings, I was like, people are crazy. This guy was just in Pebble Beach on Saturday, probably even Sunday, right? The third round finished Sunday morning, right? So he's in Pebble Beach on Sunday. He's got to come all the way across the world to get to Singapore to then play and tee it up. And once you know, comes out and shoots a 74 the first round of Singapore. I was like, great. This guy's 30% owned. This is great. And then all of a sudden he shoots 66, 67, 69 to close one of the better final 54-hole stretches. And why Seen pop to me? So he opened 72, 77, and then 67 in Pebble Beach. And then you go and look at his numbers when he played there. And again, you get PGA Tour data against the best in the world. And Marcel Seen gained over 3 strokes in his single round when you looked at his approach play. So if you went and saw on approach on day 2 or day 3 is when he played Pebble, that would have been the 3rd best round of the day. Malnati finished 4th at the event. Ribble was 2nd and in approach. And then it was Marcel Seen, and he gained a stroke off the tee in that round too. So that would have put him actually the #1 ball striker in that flight on Pebble Beach that day. And I think on Pebble Beach on Saturday, that's when you get like a lot of the bigger names that end up playing on the course there. So like he had Spieth in that flight, he had some good guys that were playing against that day. And it's just interesting to see somebody you don't normally see in that setting pair up with it and show incredible numbers, and then get to Singapore, play 54 holes straight and play extremely well. And he had probably a sneaky decent end to last year too, right? 19th at
Really
Mauritius,
yeah.
A T5 in South Africa, a T16 the week prior to that, right? Like he's been in some steady form, and I'm shocked to get 100-1 at him DraftKings Sportsbook today. I'm in.
I think the thing is with the DP World Tour that you do get is we saw it with Ollie Wilson last year, and these Paul Waring's had a little bit of renaissance, like because you do get some of these weaker fields and you do get some of these inexperienced players. These ones have been around and learned the game and know when to capitalize on their good form. It's a different mindset, right? Like these are kind of 42, 43, 44-year-olds that are contending on a DP World Tour, as opposed to when the 37, 38-year-old does it on the PGA Tour, they're kind of considered a veteran, right? I think with Marcel Siem he's playing really solid golf. And when you think again about Marcel Siem, solid winner, not one that, again, not comparing him to kind of like an Ollison who's got like 6 wins in his career. Like Marcel Siem was known to struggle to get over the line earlier in his career, but now I just think when you look at the competition that he's playing now versus what he was playing then, I mean, he won the Dunhill Championship in South Africa in 2004, and then he had to wait 8 years. They were talking about it on the broadcast to win in France. Then again, next year, trophy in his hand, next year, BMW Masters. All of a sudden, he's like a 4-time winner. Got into the top 50 in the world at his best. Obviously, he's not that player, but like you say, you can very much account for why he opened with a 74 last week, and even to be honest, the 69 at the end of the week versus the 66, 67, you could say, well, he's probably just run out of gas. Yeah, so like he's started slowly because he can't get going. He's ended slower because he's just run out of gas. So if he can just get, I mean, the time zone I think is either the same or no different this week, shorter travel, he should be in a good spot. I'm surprised he's 100-1. He's not over here, so that's good.
Yeah. So it's a nice offering there. Let's see. You have one more. How deep is yours? Okay, I can go here for 2 in a row. Mentioned this guy in closing last week, and it's just pedigree. It's pedigree in the field. It's pedigree against something, and maybe it's worth letting guys get their feet under them prior to jumping in their first start. And I'm going to bet Taiga Samikawa, former #1 amateur in the world, as recent as a year, I think 7-8 months ago. Like I think his event, which one was it? The Dunlap? No,
Japan Open.
Pull this up here. Was it he beat Adam Scott? He dusted Adam Scott.
That was the Japan
right?
Open. Yeah.
Yes. Beat Paul Casey, right? Like that was a strong, that was a different type of Japan, leaderboard that you have. And, that's impressive. Higa was second. Like Higa's somebody I think is very easily to go back to this week too, for example, after kind of getting it. But Kanaya 5th there, right? 6 for Adam Scott, 6 for Chan Kim, who finally had another top 10, on the Korn Ferry Tour this week. You have Kadaira in there. You have Saddam. I'm not going to say his last name. Kawi Kanjana. That's pretty good.
That's who I wanted to bet this week. That was the one I was looking for.
But he's probably the most informed, golfer over there right now. So like, I think what we've seen out of Taigi Samikawa, and it's not to be remiss again. I talked about Marcel Siem for 1 round on the PGA Tour, and liked that. Samikawa got 3 starts on the PGA Tour. He made the cut in Sony, and he made the cut at Farmers. And what he did in those events was very, very strong off the tee numbers. He was well above average against the field, just struggled kind of the rest of the game. And what's to be said of what a made cut is on the PGA Tour versus this, right? He plays those 3 events. He gets over to Singapore. You settle in a little bit, right? He was a 2-time winner on the Japan Tour just this past year, just after going pro, right? A 2-time amateur winner, or 4-time amateur winner in his last 25 starts. Like, you have pedigree, you get a number in 100-1. I think it's very fair to just go back him and trust what he's built, and hopefully he's a little bit more settled this week.
You've just got this unbelievable crop of Asian golf talent. It's probably like the best feeder for young talent, right? And it probably started with Matsuyama and Ishikawa and went on to Sungjae and Tom Kim, and obviously there's Korean and Japanese, but like you got Nakajima, who's going to be in the Full Swing documentary, right? Like the thing with Samikawa and Kazuki Higa, who Brad is on, is I feel like because they're getting these opportunities to play these PGA Tour events early on in this season, Hawaii's great for Japanese golfers. You can't settle, so you can't get your foothold. If Tiger Samikawa was playing, he went straight into the Joburg events and played all of those all the way through to the early Middle Eastern events. He'd probably be in really good form right now, and you wouldn't be able to get the number. So now it's opportunity gained, right? We talked about this, I think, with I mean, we bet Tom Kim at like 66, 70 to 1 in Saudi, didn't we? And we were umming and ahhing about it at the time. And in retrospect, that's like the best price we could have ever got. And, Jude obviously gets there way before us. But, you just have to be early on these guys. And it's going to have, like, Kanaya would have had an early good finish and then just struggled. You just don't know what's going to happen. But talent-wise, he's potentially going to be as good as most in this field.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think the settling and just popping over to play another tournament, I think is great for him. And you even worry about I mean, I guess it's not that much different playing where they did on the Asian Tour and coming to play. But yeah, excited for that crop. I mean, you even saw Histatoon, who was the first round leader,
he was great,
on the DP World Tour. He gave Kanaya a run for his money through 54 holes, right? Like it's these golfers can play. So and I think Katsumara, who was on the Corn Ferry Tour, was inside the top 10 through 54 holes too. So like littered across the world with very good talent. Totally agree. So that's one. Two more. Second one right now is Alejandro Del Rey. Tom, of things that would kill you, him winning last week, that one would have hurt, man. That one would have hurt bad. And just because I was encouraged the way he played when we were on him, so what that would have been, he finished 28th 2 weeks ago when we thought distance was everything for Ras Al Khaimah, right? And he was, I think, 33rd after 2 rounds. I think he kind of played decent on Saturday morning and then kind of fell apart. I was like, okay, like that was encouraging. And then I'm like, okay, we're going to have a really difficult event. He's somebody who always was on to score low. College was scoring low. He did well in the Canary Islands. Like he needed to go deep for that. And here it is. It turns out low scores, and he's the 54-hole leader, right? And then on Sunday, he opens 3 birdies in his first 3 holes. Like I was like, okay, it's happening. Like this is happening when he was 350 to 1, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So to get him still at 125s in something that's going to be a more open birdie fest, I'm in. I think he's played great the last 2 weeks. I think going back to the well is perfectly fine.
Yeah, like he was I wrote him down, and he's the one that I've left out for my next pick, basically. And I don't really know why, because I could just have them both. Like we mention this all the time. There's no real reason not to. So very much in the style of what he did with Alex Levy last week, I'll probably just join in with Del Rey because his driving is great. The way that he played last week, incredibly encouraging. No, he didn't get the job done, but neither did Valimaki, neither did Jung-Hoon Wang, neither did other people. You can't just punish one person for it. Ultimately, Oki Stridham came forward, and Oki Stridham's what, like 37 years old, and has been around the block. Like Del Rey hasn't. So I think it's really encouraging. He led the field in driving distance. His greens regulations wasn't great, 55th. His driving actually is what you expect of him. So I think if he can kind of find a few more greens this time and not put himself under the pressure to make the birdies and pars the way he was in the kind of the first and final round, then I think Del Rey's a great bet.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I'm hoping he keeps it running because he was a really good player in college.
Yeah.
Let's go to you, and then we'll roll from my last one.
Yeah, so for me, it was David Rivetto. So he missed the cut on his first start this season in Joburg, but then just made 5 straight cuts in a row. And I think that's just a really positive sign for him. He's finished 30th, 23rd, and 9th already this season. When he was 9th in South Africa, he was actually 2nd at the halfway stage. So he's got that kind of recent experience of being in contention. If he had any semblance of a short game last week, he really would have contended. He was 2nd in ball striking, only behind Antoine Rosner, 8th in driving distance, 25th in driving, actually 4th in greens and regulation. So everything about Rivetto has been really positive. You talk about Dan Bradbury and how positive he's been since that win. Rivetto has been almost, if not as equally impressive since having the chance to win in South Africa and not. So whereas Bradbury's kind of got that win, Rivetto was right in the mix for 36, 54 holes, didn't get the job done. So the 150 to 1 about Rivetto, for just the potential talent level, we don't necessarily know just yet what exactly that is, but I think there's a lot of upside in him still.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, right, we came onto the scene, Q School, right, and played exceptional
Yeah.
there, and really was somebody to keep our eye on. And again, I'm still just a firm believer of the talent. What's the best way to say that? Of guys like being able to break through from Q School
Yeah.
and from Challenge Tour. Like I don't view it that much different when you get down to some of the qualifications that you see.
Yeah, and then one other person in that same vein, I haven't bet, but someone I thought you may have done, and I was going to, was Simon Forstrom. I know he's obviously slightly older, and the way that the path he's taken is not the same. But I mean, what's he done since he's come on the DP World Tour season? Only impressed. Joburg Open had bookend round 67, 65, finished 9th there. He finished 50th at the SA Open, but he was actually 14th at the 54-hole stage. He then finished 4th in Mauritius. Missed the cut at Ras Al Khaimah last week, which I'm not too surprised by because I don't think he's the longest by any means. And then he was absolutely lights out in Singapore for the first round last week, 65, when everyone else was struggling. Just completely fell off a cliff, which is why you can still get the number that you can on him. And he isn't that kind of realistic course fit that you suspect will play really well here. But accuracy wise, like he's probably going to avoid those hazards that some of the longer ones are going to get themselves into. So Forstrom I kind of like.
Yeah, he was, same thing, right? Q School winner that just kept it rolling and absolutely has that talent. I'm going to close out with one more Q School graduate from the year, and we're dipping into 1,000 to 1 territory, Tom. I almost rolled up with a 600 to 1 and 1,000 to 1, just for reference.
Should have done it.
I'll at least tell you who the 600 to 1 is.
Do that.
It was Sam Hutsby. If you notice again when you look at those type of rounds, right? Hutsby he opens up 68, 67, and then he sticks going to the halfway point, and he shoots an 80 on Saturday, and then he closes with a 70, right? Like right in that wheelhouse of it. But I'm gonna go with Tom, this name's gonna be hard.
I reckon I can do this one.
Okay.
Gudmundur Christiansen.
Nice. That was good. That was real good. And Christiansen comes in with relatively nothing when it goes into form. This was his first made cut of the year, right? He's gone stretch, I think 10 missed cuts in a row. Yeah, 10 missed cuts in a row. Before that, I was a 3rd place at the Finish Challenge, and then he 49th in Singapore. What I was encouraged about, Tom, is the Ras Al Khaimah, he had some strong ball striking numbers despite missing the cut. Lost 3 strokes per round in his missed cut there. So a little struggle with his short game. But this past week at his Open, so he opens with a 68 and he closes with a 66. You kind of piecemeal that together. Hole in one on Sunday. We like that. Kind of get the good vibes rolling. But you saw when you look at kind of the in-running numbers, and again, this is easy to miss, right? And trying to like at least piece how this guy's game is, because we haven't had that reliable of strokes gained data, for a lot of these new graduates. But even last week for Gudmundur, I like calling him his first name. That's a good first name. He was 5th off the tee on Sunday, so, at least not all relied on that hole in one that came, because I think from a tee to green standpoint, he was also right there, which makes sense if you have a hole in one. But again, 1,000 to 1, and you're kind of putting together a little bit of what this guy has flashed. Yeah, he was 3rd tee to green on Sunday. I don't know, Tom. These are the guys that you just at least chance out. And you came in here saying I've bet him before, which is amazing because I probably have.
I'm sure that you've had, like, because for some reason, like I saw his name on Sunday in the early betting on the exchange. I was like, Sky's going to bet Gudmundur Christiansen, and I was like, there must be a reason why I know you're going to do that. Like, we don't talk about him, so I'm assuming you must have put him up at some point. You obviously referenced we do talk about Christian Kroh Johansson as well, but no, I'm sure there was Gudmundur Christiansen in one of those like really like obscure events last year, maybe like Sweden or somewhere like that, like Scandinavian mixed or something like that. Maybe.
Probably, yeah.
I'm trying to think, maybe piece together where it was.
I bet it was the Honda World Invitational after he finished 3rd in the Challenge Tour the week before.
That would make sense, right? That's got to be what it is. it just sticks out to me because he went 36th third. Yeah, it's got to be that. It's got to be that hand.
I mean, this is the thing though. He is littered with like strong finishes out of nowhere, right? Like randomly had 4 top 20s in 2021, with no other finishes inside the top 50 that entire year. And then, he has 2 top 11s last year with 90% of the time he's missing the cut. He only made the cut in 2 other events. So like he has top of leaderboard upside when it's all clicked. And we've seen now this game of tee to green kind of trend for 2 weeks in a row. 1,000 to 1, Tom. I'm going to make that bet. You'll probably see me mixing a first round leader. That's probably the safest thing in a top 20 on somebody like that. But that's we're putting it in the bank. 1,000 to 1, Tom.
See, I thought he was younger than he is. He's actually 30.
He's like 30, isn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, not speaking from someone that's any younger than him.
I am 30 as well.
Like I am going to be 30 in like 2 weeks, so I'm not going to call him old because that would just be a diss to myself. But you look at like his career, 3 wins on Nordic Golf League in 2019. In that kind of. So what would he have been then? That's what 3 years ago. 4 years ago, he would have been 26, 27. Maybe that's when he peaked, and then all of a sudden, COVID happens, and he can't get status anywhere, can't get going anywhere, can't play. That can disrupt things an awful lot and just slow things down. He might have just been a bit of a late starter, then found his form, and then just had nowhere to play. And these things happen. So I think that I don't know why I'm trying to justify 1,000 to 1 shot. Like he's 1,000 to 1. Just put a coffee on it and just hope that he does something. But trying to give sort of some rhyme and reason to it.
Yep. So I'm going to put a bow on the week. I want to make sure if you are an audio listener, you can find us on any of your podcast platforms, daily fantasy sports picks and bets, The Mix, Mayo Media Network, big supporters of us and what we do. Really appreciate that. Huge stretch of golf on the PGA Tour too. So, Pat and Jeff have you all the way covered for that. And it's kind of golf time, right? Football ends.
Yeah, I was looking at the schedule. We were talking about this at work earlier. Like, it's a massive run now. Like, through to the Masters. You've got Riviera, Bay Hill, Honda, Players, Masters.
Yeah.
I think there's obviously Texas in there or something like that, like where it's a little bit of a down week. But then you've got the release of the full swing on Wednesday, where no one's gonna, like everyone's gonna binge watch. How many episodes is there? Like 6 or 7? Like they're all gonna get watched.
Yeah, I think maybe 8. Yeah.
8, great. So that's an evening gone. But yeah, I think it's a really good time for golf. And look, we've had our say on the DP World Tour and the fact that it has been weakened, but ultimately we're still enjoying it. We're still finding bets to place. And yeah, I mean, hopefully time zones playing out soon and I can actually watch it.
Yep. 100%. Cool, man. All right, let's close it out. You want to recap your card?
Yeah, so for me, it's Thorbjørn Olesen, 22 to 1, I think is the best number you can get on him. Shubhankar Sharma, 66 to 1. Gavin Green, 80 to 1, I believe it was. And David Rivetto, 160 to 1, I'm seeing on Oddschecker as well.
Perfect. I will be on Marcus Helichilda, 35 to 1. Like I said, Guido still going on the card, 60 to 1. Dan Bradbury is 70s as of this time. Marcel Siem, 100 to 1. Taiga Semikawa, 100 to 1. Alejandro Del Rey, 125 to 1. And Gudmundur Chris Johnson at 1,000 to 1. First round leader, top 20. Tom, that would get us out of some jams to hit 1,000 to 1.
That was a beautiful pronunciation there. I don't know why you didn't take it first time. And I will be adding Del Rey onto my staking plan as well with you. So absolutely love this week.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you guys. Like I said, next week, Hero Indian Open is back. So looking forward to that. Best of luck, everybody. And we'll talk to you then.